Food. I am your host, JT Tapias, and today we're going to be speaking about the 4 reasons why most people battle to lose weight. This may be you or someone you know, but if you've known someone or you yourself have been on many different yo-yo diets and yet it seems like weight loss has been elusive, my friend, then you're going to want to listen, because I'm going to give you 4 principles that in 23 years of working with people, I have really seen a common denominator in people that struggle to lose weight. And so don't go anywhere. We're going to jump right into this podcast. But before I do so, I want to talk to you about EYBfuelplan.com, supplements that allow you to show up like the best version of yourself. If you're feeling lousy and you're one of these people that says, I eat well, but yet I don't understand why I'm always dragging, most likely, my friend, you have a nutrient deficiency. And if you go to EYBfuelplan.com and you enter promo code P413, you'll get a 10% discount on any order. Okay, without further ado, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to speak about these 4 principles, these 4 things that I see consistently inside of the world of weight loss and why I think most people struggle, right? I want to start off by telling you a story, something very significant that happened in my career, early on in my career. And it was the end of the day on a Friday afternoon. I was getting ready to go home. It had been a busy week for me. And as I was in my office getting ready to leave, I see a giant of a man walk through the door. Now, the sun was hitting the storefront in a way where I couldn't really see. All I could see was a shadow of a man. And he looked like a giant. I'm talking like 6'5". And he started walking in my direction, and I said, how can I help? I didn't hear a word come out of his mouth. He just kept walking in my direction. And as this shadow got closer and closer, I finally saw a man who was about 6'5" and probably 300 pounds at that point. He said, can we chat? And I said, sure. He sat down and he started to tell me probably one of the saddest stories that I have ever heard. He said, you know, JT, I'm here because I am sick and tired of being sick and tired. And yesterday was the absolute worst situation I've ever been in my entire life. And I can't deal with this anymore. I said, tell me what happened. He says, yesterday after having dinner with my wife and my daughter, he says, every night after we get done with dinner, I play with my daughter for 10, maybe 15 minutes. He says, I can't play with her more than 15 minutes because my ankles, my knees, and my lower back hurt. He says, not only do they hurt, it's excruciating pain. He said, and so we got done playing. He says, and I was walking her up the stairs to her bedroom to tuck her into bed. And she was in a very playful mode. And she said, Daddy, can you bring me up the stairs like a horsey? So I put her over my shoulders. I try to go up the first step. He says, and I realized I wasn't going up. He said, I quickly put her down. She said, Daddy, why aren't we going up? He said, Daddy's too fat. Daddy can't bring you up the stairs. He said, with tears in his eyes, he put her to bed. He tucked her in. He said he went in his bedroom and he cried like a baby. He says he cried like a baby because at that point, he realized that he had incarcerated his own body, that he was, at this point, he was a type 2 diabetic, self-inflicted. He had high blood pressure. He was hypertensive, and his kidneys were starting to fail. And so his doctor was already speaking to him about dialysis. He said, you know, I did some research. I went online. I see what people were saying about your program. He said, but I wanted to come here face-to-face, man-to-man, and for you to tell me if you can help me or not. He says, if you can't help me, I need you to let me walk out that door because my life depends on it. No pressure, right? So I looked at him and I said, Michael, let me ask you a question. Are you interested in doing this or are you committed to doing this? And he said, what's the difference? And I said, great question. I said, you know, interested means you're going to do whatever is convenient. Committed means that you're going to do whatever is necessary. And he looked at me in the eyes and he was teary-eyed and he said, you know, he said, you better bet I'm committed. He said, this is not about me. This is about my family. He said, I need help. So he came on the program exactly 42 days in. I got a phone call from him and he said, JT, I just want to let you know that I weighed in this morning. I'm 42 days into the plan. He says, I'm already 31 pounds down since I got started. He said, my A1C levels are in normal range. He says, my doctor took me off of blood pressure medication. He says, I haven't been hypertensive in the last month. He said, but more importantly, you need to know that tonight I was able to go up the stairs with my little girl over my shoulders. He said, and the look in her face, he says, I'll never erase. I was literally holding my tears back just out of excitement and just to understand the power of knowing your why, right? This man was very, very much connected to his pain, which leads me to that first point and the thing that I believe is necessary, the four things I believe that people struggle with. And if we come to a recognition, a distinction of these things, and we're truly ready in our heart of hearts, then we can make some radical changes that can lead to overall health and then leaving a legacy behind, because the Bible says that a righteous man leaves an inheritance for his kids' kids. And when we hear that, we think of finances, but truly, this goes beyond finances. This talks about a godly legacy, but it also leaves a health legacy, and it just leaves good principles, solid principles that your kids can benefit from. And of course, proper nutrition, eating healthy, showing your kids how to move, showing your kids what to eat, what not to eat is part of that legacy. And so just amazing how this man radically changed his life. And point number one, and the thing that I see is that when people are struggling to lose weight, what they're doing is they're deriving more from their pleasure than they are from their pain. If you've ever heard of this concept of pain and pleasure, these are the two buttons that move you in whatever direction. You're either going to do whatever you can to avoid pain or whatever you can to gain pleasure. And whichever way that scale tips is what you're going to end up doing. So this man finally tipped the scale over to the pain balance, right? There was so much pain in his life that he was ready to do something. Hence the reason he got such amazing results. By the way, it's been several years since he graduated the program. He's never put the weight back on. He's super healthy. He's off of every medication. And once again, he tipped that pain pleasure scale into a lot of pain, and it motivated him to move forward. Number two, most people that I see struggling in this area are people that don't know what they're truly dealing with, right? Most people think they're big bone, they're from the Midwest, something's going on, they can't lose weight, they have metabolic issues, they have hormone issues, and I'm not taking that away. That's very, very possible. But for the most part, I believe that 99.9% of people out there that are struggling with weight, that haven't been able to take the weight off, to make fitness and nutrition a consistent lifestyle, are battling with an addiction to food. And let me just say that an addiction to food is exactly as powerful as an addiction to drugs or alcohol. I know you're probably very skeptical about that statement right there, but I'm here to say that when sugar impacts the brain and we secrete dopamine, that neuroreceptor that is associated with feeling good, that's a very powerful thing that most people will chase. And if you're not doing the drugs and the alcohol, most likely you're leaning into the food, the innocent drug. And when we use food as a crutch, it's just like a drug, right? And we're dependent on it. When we don't eat it, we feel the same exact situations and feelings that a drug addict feels when they're in abstinence, right? They're emotional, they're moody, they don't feel good. They snap at people. It's the same exact thing. And so if you're battling with this, maybe you haven't connected to the idea that you have an addiction to food. And of course, I have many people that come into my program that aren't aware of this. And when they realize it, it's eye-opening and it's a game changer, because when you know what you're dealing with, then you can strategize and work around those things and actually come up with a solution. So ask yourself that question: am I addicted to food? Am I leaning into food when I'm high or low? Any of those emotions, sad, bored, happy, am I reaching for food, right? Maybe you don't smoke, maybe you don't do drugs, maybe you don't do alcohol, and that's great. But if you're leaning into food and it's causing you to get sick, then it's pretty much creating the same situations that any of those other vices would create for you. Number three is they have no idea what they're missing out on, right? People think that fitness is just an aesthetic destination. It's just about looking a certain way, but it goes beyond that, right? We understand that when you are fit, you have amazing energy, creativity, you have a higher cognitive performance, you can be more, do more. That's right. If you're an ambitious person and you're trying to, shoot for the stars, but you're shooting for the moon and landing on a star, that type of person, that A-type personality that's trying to do more. And because of that, you have the excuse, I'm just busy and I'm trying to grow my business and I'm trying to scale and I just don't have time to exercise and to eat right. I'm here to tell you that one of the reasons you haven't been able to scale is not necessarily because you don't have the right business strategy, or because you don't have the right idea, or because you're just not you're not in a creative zone. It's simply because you're not activating your physiology. You're not bringing in the right nutrients, and therefore your body's not producing the creativity, the energy that you need, and the higher cognitive performance that's going to lead you to do more and be more. So I'm here to say that this is way beyond an aesthetic destination. This is truly, truly about performance. And when you see it from that perspective, it's a game changer. Last but not least, number 4, they haven't connected the idea of fitness and proper nutrition as a pursuit of God's righteousness, glorifying God through the stewardship of their bodies. They're simply seeing it as, I'm already 40, 50, 60. I'm already married. I don't need to impress anyone. And I'm okay with my keg. And that's the kind of jokes that we hear around people that are overweight. And I'm here to say that, okay, fine. If you don't want to impress your spouse or, your wife, your husband, okay, that's your call. But I'm here to say that until we go in the presence of a sovereign God, where we should glorify him in everything we do, right? The Bible clearly says in Romans chapter 12, verse 1 through 2, it says that we are to live as a holy sacrifice to the Lord. And then he goes on in verse 2, and he says to not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind. So not only does it tell you what you need to do, right? You need to live as a holy sacrifice, but then it shows you how to do it. It tells you that you need to change your mind, that you can't be conformed to the ideas of this world, but instead you need to be transformed by the truth of God, which impacts your thoughts, your feelings, your actions, your habits, and of course your character. And when you have a Christ-like character and you honor him, it says that if you put him first, all things will go well. So my friends, as you've heard me here in the past 12 minutes pleading with you and trying to show you truly if you're struggling in these areas, why you're struggling, right? I went through 4 of these components that I believe can be holding you back. Here's what I would love for you to do. I would love for you to be introspective. I would love for you to hear this podcast again. If you're hearing this and you're thinking of a friend and you're like, man, this is exactly what Joe or Tom or Maria are experiencing, do me a favor and share this podcast with them. Right? Leave a review down below if you've enjoyed this, if you've gotten value out of this podcast. And I would love to hear from you guys. My name is JT Tapias with an idol called food. And today we spoke about the 4 reasons most people battle to lose weight. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll talk to you guys soon. Ciao, ciao.